Kershaw, fairly popular for speed-safe knives. If you don't like assisted knives, there are some manual flipper options. What we have here is a Kershaw Fraxion by Jens Anzo, a Danish custom knife maker and tool maker, originally with black G10 with carbon fiber overlays. Currently there 8 variations, although there's no steel upgrade at this time. It is an 8CR13 MOV for this knife here. So this is one that I've been carrying for some time, and I do really enjoy the use and flipping action of this knife itself too. So it actually is something that I do come to enjoy as far as the use of this knife. So some of the things that we're going to get started on. So if anybody's following with some of the videos, I do run in some different tests. So one of the ones that I was actually pretty surprised about was the trigger pull test on this knife. So I went in actually, for all this time I've been doing the trigger pull test. I've been getting the data. I had the other video where I kind of compiled everything, and then it never really dawned on me as far as how much weight it actually was. So as we see here, it seems like a little high pull on that one, but that's over 3 pounds of pressure. Needing to actually break that initial detent. So 3 pounds. So I went into the kitchen and I went and figured out, okay, what weighs 3 pounds? So I had some apples on the counter, and then that actually didn't weigh enough. So surprisingly, this is how much about 3 pounds is. That's a lot of oranges. So this is how much weight is being put onto your finger to actuate. So 3 pounds to actuate the knife. So interesting. Didn't realize it was that much. This is just a little bit over 3 pounds of these 10 greens. I did have some run away. But that was just really surprising for me. When I was actually putting it together, as far as piecing it together, as far as how much weight that is. But it still is an enjoyable knife to use, enjoyable knife to flip. But that's one thing that actually really surprised me about the knife itself, as far as that detent. So that's where I'm just trying to get that baseline to figure out some of the things so I can communicate to your guys' side as far as how much pressure is being actuated on it, what it looks like in your hand. So that's what we're going to roll into here as well. We're going to do actually for first off just a comparison test on this knife to see now some of the other knives that are kind of in this size range that I have available. An orange run away, but now there's one of the ones that I just picked up. So this is the CRKT Pilar. That is quite a bit smaller than the other knife. And then we also even have a San Renmu. This is a 7010, so very close to the size range for that knife. And then ever popular Spyderco Delica. Then we have this one, which is the Tangram Vector. And then this has improved over time in using it, but you really need to be patient with this knife and actually work at it. So those are kind of the comparisons between the Kershaw Fraxion for knife size. So I'm going to bring it in a little bit, and then we'll do the hand sizing as well as some weight on this to actually verify some of that. So actually coming back with some measurements first off. So the blade itself, they say, is 2.75 inches, and then a handle length of 4 inches. So as you see here now, so 2.75, that's a little bit longer than that. So that's kind of the cutting edge right there. So it does come up a little bit further for the actual knife edge itself. So it comes almost to that 3-inch for the knife blade itself. So it really depends on where you're coming from, but that 2.75 is still within that cutting edge of the blade. So this does need a sharpening choil for it, because then I did actually send this in to Kershaw because they do have the free sharpening service. And then actually when they resharpen it, it did add a little bit of recurve to the blade because it does not have that sharpening choil for it. So that's kind of that blade size. So that's fairly accurate, a little bit on the smaller side in comparison. But the handle length on the knife itself, so spot on. So that's 4 inches right there. So that is correct for that, for the length and the size of the knife itself. So this one, they do say it comes in fairly light as well, under 2 ounces. But we're going to start off with kind of that hand sizing. So this one, I'll leave the link down below. I'll go and find the link again for it. But for hand sizing, so for yourself at home, you can print this out. This will print to scale for yourself, so you can actually see where it's going to fall in your hand, and then also what size glove you're going to wear as well. So for the knife itself, when you're actually holding on to it, you can see it's a fairly small knife for it as far as how it's going to lay in your hand. So for adult female, adult male hand. So even that, for that small size hand, it's going to be right there. So you are going to have a little bit of probably your pinky kind of falling off on the edge on that. But that is the sizing for that. So they're saying that this knife comes in at 1.9 ounces. So I'll kind of see if that is accurate for the knife itself. So actually a little bit less now. So let's try that again to make sure that's actually correct. So 1.7, so possibly with the sharpening took off a little bit of weight. So currently my knife is 1.7 ounces and about 55, oh, that's milliliters. Yeah, 56 grams for that one. So that's pretty close to it. So possibly with that sharpening, they did take off some of the steel for the knife itself. So that's where it did possibly add a little bit to that. But it did add a little bit of recurve to the blade itself. And then kind of this little odd piece of the blade here that kind of jets out and slopes up because it does not have that sharpening choil for it. But it is available anywhere from probably about $28.95 all the way up to full retail if you want to go right to their site and pay for that full retail for $49.99. So the pros on this one, the weight, the size, it's very not noticeable in your pocket. The style, the function, so even for this little groove on the show side of the scale, I feel this really is a good transition point if you're going to go into a different holding pattern for it. It kind of lines up with that and actually allows for a channel for it. But the carbon fiber itself, now for the overlay, it is very stylish. I did make note that I do like this pattern more than my CH3510. And that one's a full carbon fiber scale. And then this is just an overlay, but I do like how this is really laid out and how it actually, the pattern looks on it. So that's one thing on that for that overlay. So very snappy action. It is on a KVT ball bearing pivot, and it is also right or left hand carry. So for both sides, so it's going to be a tip up carry, a right or left. It does come with, it does not come with a deep carry clip, but you can get this through Kershaw at no cost. So they will send this out to you so you can install it on your own. As far as the cons for it, the jimping on the flipper tab itself, especially with that 3 pounds, it does become uncomfortable for extended fidgeting with the knife itself. So that's one thing that I did notice about it. And also the blade steel itself does possibly have a little bit more retouching. So you do have that lifetime sharpening with Kershaw itself. If your knife does get dull, they will take care of that for you. But if they're going to take off 0.2 ounces each time, I'm not going to have much of a knife after a while if I keep sending it in. But the Recurve is what I made notice of before. And then initially, the G10, as far as the scale itself, was a little sharp across the ridging inside the knife itself. So when I was operating it, I just kind of noticed it. So I did take a dowel rod and a fairly high sandpaper, and I went through basically this whole inner part of the blade, not the two scales, just to kind of take any of that sharpness out. So for this one, for the buy, borrow, or avoid, my recommendation would be to buy this one. There's so many different colors for it, so many different styles. And then also if you like the action, there is also 2 different models available that are fairly similar. So the Atmos, which is getting a lot of reviews right now, and also the Method, also from Kershaw. So check that out. But for the Fraxion itself, I carry this knife quite a bit. So out of the lineup that I do have, this ends up in my pocket quite often. But we'll see what it is, because I do have the brass Natrix on pre-order. So we'll see kind of when that comes in, if that becomes my new favorite, or if this remains as far as one that I really carry around. So appreciate your time, and let me know what you think.